2.2 is basically all about story problems. So we'll just start doing them and see how well you do. So a student in algebra class has test scores of 64 and 78. What score on his third test will give him an average of 80? Well, I'm hoping you know how to find the average. The average is to add them all up, 64 plus 78. Those are your first two. And then your third test you don't know, which is x, divided by 3, and you want an average of 80. So basically you multiply both sides by 3 and add 64 and 78 together. 64 and 78 makes 142 plus x divided by 3 equals 80. So 142 plus x has to equal 240 because I multiply both sides by 3. Subtract 142. You need a pretty good, you almost need a perfect paper. You started off really bad with a score of a 64, so you need a 98 on your third test to get a class average of 80. Okay, the next one. A clothing store is holding a clearance sale. Advertised that all prices have been discounted off at 20%. If a shirt is on sale for 28, what's the pre-sale price? So I do it kind of the opposite way. So if a shirt is on sale, it's on sale for 20, so your final answer is 28. This is your pre-sale amount. I'm hoping your pre-sale amount is going to be more than what your sale is, correct? You're gonna and then if it's discounted at 20% off, all I do is I don't use the 20%. 20% and 80% has to add up to 100%. So instead of saying that it's discounted at 20% off, I use the 80% in my problem. And when you, if you take, to get x alone, all you do is divide both sides by 8.80, and you should get higher. Let's see here. 28 divided by 0.8. And your blouse was $35 to start with. So let's say jeans nowadays, there's some expensive jeans nowadays, but let's say you want to know what the pre-sale of jeans was. You got them on sale for $85. They were 15% off. And the sale that you got on the jeans was $85, and they were 15% off. You're trying to figure out what the jeans cost before. You're not going to put 15 there. You're going to put 0.85 because 0.85 and 15 add up to 100%. So if you take 85 and divide it by 0.85, your jeans were $100 to start with. So remember that. The length of a rectangle is 3 times the width. Here's the rectangle. Here's the length. Here's the width. The length of a rectangle is 3 times the width. Well, we're going to use W for width. The length is 3 times the width, so we're going to use 3W for length. The perimeter is 40. Well, don't you have to add up all the sides? Perimeter means like putting a fence around all of this. So if you want to put a fence around it, you're going to have a W plus a W, which are your 2 widths, and then your 2 lengths are 3W and 3W. And the whole perimeter is 40. That's how many W's? That's 8W equals 40. So W is equal to 5 inches. And if your width is 5 and your length is 3 times, then your length is going to be 15 inches. Whenever you're doing story problems, make sure you label your answers. I'm not gonna worry about the third one. You're not gonna see one like this on the, in your homework, so let's not worry about that one. You know what, I think I took it away anyway. It's gone anyway, so. Okay, now these last two, you're gonna be making 6 box charts for some of the complicated problems. So you'll know when you get to these 6 box charts. I'm gonna do 2 of these 6 box charts. 1, 2, well, I'm gonna do 3 6 box charts because these are a little bit more complicated, so. Yep, 6 of them. So, I mean 3 of them. So let's make a 6 boxes. You're gonna see, you'll know when you get to these 6 box charts. I think you got about 6 of these to do for your homework, so you definitely need to know how to do this. If you had me last year in Algebra 2, I taught you these 6 box charts. So, okay, over here you have to label what you're talking about. We're talking about a car and a truck. And 100%, there's always a multiplication sign. 100%, there's always an equal sign. And it's always a total at the end. Okay, we need to fill what we're talking about. Well, we're talking about the speed of each of them, and we're talking about how long, or let's say time, whatever you want to label them. Okay, how fast is the car going? He's going 40 miles per hour, and the truck is going 60 miles per hour. Everybody see how to fill in those? Okay. These 4 boxes must be filled in first. You must fill in these 4 boxes first. 2 of them will have numbers. The other 2 will have variables in it. A car left Stevens at 2 p.m. and a truck left Stevens at 3 p.m. It doesn't matter which one I'm going to give. I'm going to give the car the X. It doesn't matter. I could have gave the truck the X. Does the car left 1 hour after the car. The truck left 1 hour after the car. Is it X plus 1 or is it X minus 1 would you put there? Did the truck gain an hour or did the truck lose an hour? If he left at 3, did he lose an hour? So shouldn't I have X minus 1 in here? Okay, once you filled in the first 4 boxes, how do you fill in those last 2 boxes? This is what you do. You take the 40 and you multiply it by X, and that's what goes in the last box, 40X. You take the 60 and you multiply it by X minus 1, and you're going to get 60X minus 60, the famous distributive property. That's how you fill in those last 2 boxes. Okay, now when you do a 6 box chart, there's only 2 ways to set the equation up. You only use these boxes. You are done using these. You only worry about these, and this is what you do. You either set those last 2 boxes equal to each other, or you add those 2 boxes up at the end and set them equal to a total that they give you. Notice that they give you no total in this problem. Since they give you no total, I'm going to do this one. I'm going to set the 2 boxes equal to each other. So 40X is one box, and 60X minus 60 is the other one. I'm going to subtract 60, which gives me a negative 20X equals a negative 60. Divide both sides by negative 20. X is equal to 3 hours. That's how long it's going to take for the truck to overtake the car. Okay, let's do another 6 box chart. In the concession stand, they sold a slice of pizza for 75 cents. I know this is an old story problem. And hamburgers were $1.35. They sold 40 more slices of pizza than hamburger. They sold a total of $292.50. How many of each were sold? Okay, let's make another 6 box chart. We're talking about hamburgers and pizza. 100%, there's always a multiplication sign. 100%, there's always an equal sign. We are talking about the price. I'm just going to make a dollar sign. And the amount of them. I'm going to make a hashtag because that'll just stand for the amount. Equals always the total. Well, the price of pizza is 75 cents and the price of hamburgers are $1.35 at the concession stand. If I'm going too fast, you can always shut it off and catch up. If maybe I made my chart a little too fast. It says they sold 40 more slices of pizza. They sold 40 more slices of pizza. So I'm going to make X be the hamburger and X plus 40 be the pizza. Remember, you always fill in these 4 boxes first. 2 will have numbers in it. 2 will have variables with numbers in it. Once you are done filling in those 4 boxes, do you remember how to fill in these last 2 boxes? Multiply these 2 together and multiply these 2 together. If there is a total, you add the 1.35x plus the 0.75x plus 30 on one side and set it equal to the total. How many 1.35 and 0.75 makes 2.10 x's equals, and I'm going to bring the 30 over, which gives me 262.50. Divide both sides by 2.10, and x equals 125, and x stands for what? It stands for hamburgers. And there's 40 more pizzas, so it's 165 equals the pizzas. Okay, last 6-box chart. I think you're getting better at these. Basically, those 6-box charts, those were identical to the ones that I taught at the Algebra 2 level. Now, this is more of a college algebra type 6-box chart, so this is a little bit more challenging. So here we go. Let's make a 6-box chart again. This is the types that you're going to see in your homework. A salesperson purchased a car that was advertised as averaging 25 miles per gallon in the city and 40 miles per gallon on the highway. A recent sales trip covered 1,800 miles and required 51 gallons of gasoline. How many miles were driven in the city? So we are talking about city and highway. We are talking about the miles per gallon that you get, and we are talking about the gallons of gasoline that you used. And we know that they went a total of 1,800 miles. So keep that in mind, that we're going to use the total later. It doesn't get used in the 6-box chart. It gets used when we write the equation. What gets used in the 6-box chart? 25 miles per gallon, 40 miles per gallon, and they used 51 gallons of gasoline on this 1,800 mile trip. 100%, there's a multiplying, there's an equals, and there's a total. Okay, ready to fill this in? You always fill in these 4 boxes first. Let's see, there are 25 miles per gallon in the city. That goes there. And 40 goes there. That's not hard. Okay, we know they use 51 gallons of gasoline. That makes sense, 51 gallons of gasoline. But we don't know if they use 51 gallons of gasoline on this trip that they took. Did they use 41 in the city? That does, I mean, let's say 41 on the highway. And then it would be 10 in the city. Did they use only 40? Maybe they use 50 on the highway. Well, then if they used 50 on the highway, they had to have used 1 in the city, correct? Does 41 and 10 make 51? Does 50 and 1 make 51? How about a different combination? How about 42 and 9? How about, I don't know, let's make it 43 and 8. We don't know how many gallons. But one of them, if these are the numbers, one of these needs to be the X, correct? So how do you get the highway miles if you want this always to add up to 51, to 51, to 51, to 51? Well, city is X. Well, here's X. Take away the 10. City is X. Take away the 1. Make this the X. Make this the X. How do you get 41? What would you have to do with the 51? How would you get 41 if you don't know what X is? Think about this. Would it be X minus 51? Or would it be 51 minus X? Which way would you have to write it so you could figure out? If this was 51 and the highways was 41, how would you get 10? What would you have to do to get 10? Would you have to go 51 minus that or X minus 51? Well, if you're in college algebra, you should know that it's 51 minus X, because if you do it the opposite way, you're going to get a negative amount of gallons, and that doesn't even make sense. Multiply across, you get 25X. Multiply across using the distributive property, you are going to get 2040 minus 40X. You know that there's a total, so we know we have to add 25X plus 2040 minus 40X equals the 1800. 25X take away 40X is a negative 15X, but when we bring that over, that ends up being a negative 240. Divide both sides by negative 15. X equals 16 gallons. What does 16 gallons stand for? If you look at your chart, it stands for the city. And if you use 16 gallons in the city, then you had to have used, what was it, 51, correct? You had to have used 35, yes, 35 gallons in the highway. Okay, now, some people are going to get things wrong on the test because you don't read the question. And here's the question. The question says, how many miles were driven in the city? They're not asking how many gallons was used in the city. We know that there were 16 gallons used in the city. But if you don't answer the question right, you're not going to get the answer right. How many miles were driven in the city? Well, you know that in the city they get 25 miles to the gallon. You know that X is now 16. Can't you take 25 and multiply it by 16 to know how many miles were driven in the city? Which is only 400 miles were driven in the city. So you really have to watch out at the question that they ask you about. Another thing, if you're getting the problem wrong, is if you're in miles per hour and maybe your time is in minutes, you need to work in hours and not in minutes. You need to change it so that you're in the same hours or in minutes. So keep that in mind for these story problems.